Fire them up. That's what we do here at the Andrew Gosser Show. We fire them up. It is Memorial Day 2026, and you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I am joined in the studio by Mr. Blake Bartlam. How you doing, my man?
Doing great. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing awesome. Look, we are here. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube. We're even streaming on Facebook. And we're streaming at WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up our 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal, like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Help us grow the channel. Help us grow the station. We'd appreciate that. You can find me on X at Andrew Gosser, AndrewGasser. Brother Blake, where can they find you on X?
At B Bartlam, so BBartlam.
Yep. And if you want to be part of the program today, we will take calls 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show is standard, ladies and gentlemen. It is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, they shall also reap. And that's Galatians. And that's coming from Mrs. A.J. Kern. And she's going to be on the show tomorrow, Blake. And she's got the goods on Elon Omar that she's actually not a naturalized citizen. She's got like the FOIA proof. And the reason we're having her on is because the first committee in the House of Representatives wouldn't take it, but they're trying to get it in the ethics committee,
which Michael Guest is on.
Yeah, so we're not sitting there trying to call Michael out. We're just giving him the tools and everything that he needs to get in there. But we're gently pushing.
Yeah.
Trying to follow Rule 5. Rule 5: don't make the other side so mad that they no longer care. But we got to start off talking about Iran and President Trump and all the good stuff he's doing, man.
Yeah.
I have more of a military take on it. I think you've got more of the political take on it. So I want to get your take on it.
Well, so basically this morning, over the weekend, I think it was very obvious that there were some big things happening, whether it was in Washington, whatever. President Trump had he had all of his national security team. J.D. Vance even came in from Ohio. You had him, Secretary Hegseth, Joint Chief of Staff Raising Kane, all at the White House, this whole national security team. And they seem to have made tremendous progress on getting a peace deal signed with Iran. Right now, it looks like they agree on about 95% of what they need to agree to. And the other 5% revolve around some language differences that they have with how they're going to word certain aspects of the deal. Basically, the framework of it right now, according to a senior official in the Trump administration, is that as the U.S. lifts its blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranians will then in turn have to proportionally give up enriched uranium. So by the end of by the time that the U.S. blockade is officially, released from the Strait of Hormuz, all 400 kilograms of enriched uranium will be given up by Iran. And so it's a no dust, no deal sort of thing right there. So if Iran doesn't, and instead of how Obama gave them the billions of dollars in cash right out the gate, and just hoped that they would comply, which they didn't.
Nope.
Which, by the way, that deal would be up in 2025 had we left it in place, because it was only a 10-year thing, really.
Oh, wow.
So the more, if they hold up their end of the deal, then we'll hold up our end of the deal. And now what the president is trying to do, which I think this is sort of, I talk about this a lot anytime you let me come on, is how Trump is sort of trying to restructure the world order.
Yep.
Where it used to be U.S. on top, and then we fell back, and China was sort of in charge of all things, and Trump's trying to change that and get us back and China back down. He's trying to get every single country in the Middle East that's been involved in this process to sign on to the Abraham Accords.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And that is just tremendous. And including Iran. He wants them to sign on to it. And that's not just like a peace deal, militarily wise, that people sign on to. That's an economic thing. That's why you've seen, Dubai and all these places, the Arab Emirates, like they've started to explode with economic development is in Morocco and all the other countries, because it creates a much more stable region, and that's how you promote economic growth. And it's going to be a lot better, not just militarily and for people abroad, but for the people that live there that have been living in this sort of, environment for so long.
Yep. And you want to know, when you see Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Morocco, Qatar, Bahrain, they're taking their oil money and they're investing in their country and in their people. When you look at what Iran's doing with their oil money, They're investing in Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, uh, the Houthis, ISIS. I mean, they're
Yeah.
Shia Muslims and they are very warfare like. They're more of the Medina type of
Mhm.
Muhammad, whereas the Sunnis are more of the Mecca type. And
Yeah.
this is one of the things I've been doing as a Christian has been studying the Islamic religion because I want to be able to debate it firmly.
Right.
And I'm getting there. But at the same time, I want to understand this. And what I think we're seeing with this right now is you are seeing, whether you want to call it the one world government, the globalists, the deep state, whatever you want to call it. I really don't care. But what you're seeing is they're having a visceral reaction. It's like if you've never taken straight penicillin for the first time orally and you don't take something, eat some food before you take it, you're going to try to throw up. And that's what's happening with Trump. They're sitting there and they're fighting him at every single
Yeah.
angle. And you know what? This is what gets me about some of the people who supported Trump, and now they're like, "Oh, I could never do it." I'm like, look at all the great things that has happened, all the hard work he has done, the judges he's put into place, the policies he's put into place,
Yeah.
closing off the border, actually doing what he says he's going to do.
Yep.
That is what really ticks off, I think, these politicians more than anything else. Is that Trump does what he says he's going to do. I'm going to deploy ICE, and darn it, wouldn't you know it? He deployed ICE.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut down the border. And won't you know it? I'm going to take down the border. Venezuela needs to straighten up, or we're going to go get Maduro.
Well,
And
Maduro's sitting in
and
New
you
York prison right now.
and the thing is Maduro is such a fool. He President Trump made him a deal. It was a bad deal for us, quite frankly. But I think Trump knew he wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
But if they were going to put him in a island out in the Western
Mhm.
Pacific, eating caviar, steak, lobster every day, living out his best life, the
Yeah.
rest, he didn't take it. So he got to meet Delta Force in the
Yeah.
discombobulator.
He said, "Come meet me in Mia Flores," and well, a
Yep.
couple of days later, we did.
And it's funny because now it looks like the other thing that is really great about Trump is he can walk, chew bubble gum, tap his head, and rub his belly
Yeah.
all at the same time. And it's really special because we haven't had presidents who've been able to do that.
No.
You know, Biden certainly
No.
couldn't do it.
Goodness
No,
gracious.
he was just mentally not there. I mean, I don't even. I honestly think that's elderly abuse and
I do
a
too.
failure of the 25th Amendment not to remove him
Yeah.
for mental faculties. President Obama didn't do it. Bush didn't do it. Clinton didn't do it before that. And George Bush Sr. didn't do it before that. They
Yeah.
just all placated us.
Mhm.
And now we've got somebody in there who's really starting to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear about the Malcolm X fountain in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, it's all flowing again. I mean, that thing hasn't been running, I think, in 10 years.
Yep. And it just started working 2 weeks ago. And there are people freaking out because they thought it was broken forever. And Trump goes in there and says, "We're going to fix this." Think about that. Malcolm X fountain.
Yeah, and I know people like that's like, obviously like a fountain working in Washington D.C. People think that's like trivial or whatever, but like it's really I think the principle of the thing is like it was a choice for us to live in that sort of decline and like letting our cities
Mhm.
get so dirty, get so trashy, get so run down. That was a choice. But we also have the choice to say that no, we can be prosperous, we can be successful, and we can clean up our cities and make them safe again and make them beautiful again. And I think our nation's capital should be the most beautiful city in the world.
And then you look at what he's done with the Washington reflecting pool, where he had that all done for like under $2 million when they were going to do like 50, 60 million dollars. And they're stopping him on that. And then they're stopping him on the ballroom, where he had the ballroom sponsored and paid for privately. But of course, the military upgrades and the stuff we can't talk about on the radio, and we won't, that had to be paid for by the taxpayers. But the assassination attempts on Trump, he's had at least 4.
Yeah.
But at least 4, maybe 5 now, actually. And Biden, no assassination attempts. And Obama, no assassination attempts. The political left, the militant left, the radicalized left, they're out there, man. And we need this ballroom to where you have to go into the White House ballroom to have these state dinners instead of going to the hotel where, you're sitting there and you're having to put these layers of protection and security in. And it's not that hotel is not designed for that.
No, not at all.
I mean, the new ballroom is going to have all sorts of really neat gee whiz stuff to make sure that you get chemical attack, nuclear. Well, you can't really stop a nuclear attack, but radiological attack, biological attack, whatever, bulletproof glass, quick in serving, and just more control and protection for the president, not for Trump, but for the president of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And we want that. How great would it be, man? I'd want to
Be
go to the
great.
ballroom one
Yeah, and
time.
it's just
That'd be,
like why don't we have something like that? Like
yep.
why is he the one that has to come up with that idea? Because I've all the dinners they used to have, you have to like build a tent on the White House lawn for
Yep.
them to have it. And it's like, no, if we're gonna be a great nation, I think we should have something like actually built for us.
I mean, what type of protection does a tent really provide the
None.
president? If someone's really angry, like just over the weekend, that shooter, man,
Yeah.
and you go and read the reports, and it says that he thought he was Jesus Christ, and he had hated the president for a long time. The Secret Service knew about him for over a year,
Hmm.
and it's one of those things where we've got to start taking this more seriously.
Yeah.
The protection of the president of the United States, not just Trump, but the president of the United States, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat or something else maybe in the future, who knows? But we've got to take care of our elected officials, and we've got to tell the militant left that shooting people is not okay. And they can sit there and say the right does it too. No, they don't.
No, they
You
don't.
look at the statistics, and they're so artificially inflated
Yeah.
compared to like the actual murder death kill ratio. It's not good. And when we start losing our ability to speak freely, it's a real big issue, man. So I know we kind of veered all over there a little bit talking about President Trump and the deep state going after him, but
I think it's true because I mean, you look at Iran and look at who's trying to
yep.
stop, like people like Lindsey Graham and just all these establishment types that want nothing more than boots on the ground in Iran. I think the president has shown that all of that, all of the endless wars, I think that was a choice. And we're the United States of America, and we have a choice that if we want to act differently, if we want to do it our own way and not have to put hundreds of thousand troops on the ground and occupy a foreign country, we can do it without doing that. And I think that's what it was.
I absolutely think that's true. I do think that we'll need troops on the ground to go get the uranium. I wouldn't even trust the Iranians to dig it out themselves.
I wouldn't even trust the Israelis to do it on their own.
Nope. We need the United States Navy Seabees out there with the Air Force. And I know that's going to irritate some of my Army combat engineers, but I'm just saying that's kind of what we do. We'll put the combat engineers in there too, and just say, look, we're going to get in and get it done and get out. And it's going to be scary, but once we get rid of that, that's going to be the end of it. And I think that's the real crux of it, Blake. Think about this: all these military industrial complex people making millions, billions, trillions of dollars off of this. It's crazy. You want to take a phone call, dude?
Yeah, still.
Hold on a minute. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you. Thank you.
But think about this. I'm glad the Democrats are thinking about Trump because it's the most intelligent thought they've had all day.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And from one veteran to another, Andrew, thank you.
Thank you too, sir. Thank you too. We're gonna talk about our veterans in the second hour, and especially those who, because we all gave some, but some gave all.
Yeah.
And this is
Absolutely.
about the some that gave all day.
Well, I was in Vietnam.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you.
I lost 18 of 35 buddies.
Ooh.
Wow.
I mean, man, I can't even comprehend that. That's tough, brother. And I'm just going to speak for all of us here at WYB and in Mississippi. Thank you, dude, for what you did for us, because you made my 21-year career so much easier by the sacrifices you made, and it wasn't in vain. It wasn't in vain.
Well, I also went to Iraq in 2003.
Oh wow, I was in I went to the Persian Gulf 3 times, and then Afghanistan once, and then a bunch of little other things that really don't count. They were in bad areas, but it just, there for 48 hours or a week or whatever, not the same.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, again, thank you.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
thank you.
And thank you for the phone call. We appreciate you out there listening.
All right.
Take care,
All
my
right.
brother.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We've got all these patriots out there who have served and done
Yeah.
everything like that. And, they're out there, that they understand the fight that we're in, and they get it. And, well, we can talk about that on the other side of the break. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I am with the man, Blake Bartlam, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show. I'm here with Blake Bartlam. The number, if you want to be part of the program today, is 601-879-0002. We do not fear the Reaper. We do call it like it is. You know, we're talking with the whole last segment about Iran and how we're actually winning that war. I didn't even get into the military side of it yet,
Yeah.
but we're absolutely crushing it. It's not even, if you look at it just from a military perspective, it's completely successful. We're completely reorganizing how the world energy market actually operates. You know, Europe is not happy with this. England was taking $2 to $3 a barrel coming through the straits per barrel. And that's how they were funding their globalist leftist utopia, was off the hard work of America. And what I really think is happening is they're waiting, the deep state, the whatever you want to call it, they're waiting for people like that last caller to move on, and people who fought in Gulf War I to move on. And that's when I think you're really going to see them try to do something, because we still have. I mean, I can barely walk up and down the steps, but I still got the tactics in mind, and we're still training people up, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just getting past that mindset. And actually, there's a whole generation below me too. I mean, if you think about it, the global war on terror people, I mean, those special operators, they're out there. I mean, some of them went to go work for the cartel in Mexico.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy. So we're doing such a good job militarily, and it doesn't get enough coverage in the news media. And where it's really starting to, where I feel it's starting to really impact us, is the Senate.
Yeah.
And you know, they can sit there and pass the Maverick Act, Blake. And don't get me wrong, I was watching my F-14, and they had 2 flyers on there. I served with one of them. You know, you got a Navy commander 05 and a Navy captain 06 talking about, yeah, you take all the military stuff out, you just put in weight blocks. It's easy. I was thinking that this was going to be like, they already building the hangar, dude.
Wow.
Jared Isaacman, the NASA administrator, is actually, his company, he's funding it all himself. The taxpayer's not paying for any of it. They're just transferring the airframes to him. They're going to put in new glass cockpits. It's still going to sweep the wings. It's going to do all the engine. It's just going to be, it's going to be fun. And you know, they're sitting there. They can pass the Maverick Act, but we can't pass the Save America Act.
Yeah.
And I'm just completely, absolutely infuriated with our senators. And how they're not out there. I mean, I'm just saying it like it is. Roger Wicker and Cindy Hyde-Smith should be out there every day to say, "Where's the Save America Act?" You guys are in a Republican plus 14 state. You're not going anywhere. There's no danger. It's not, even if someone wanted to spend a bunch of money against them, it would be really hard if they came out against the Save America Act. They're not going to be defeated.
No. Because people, I mean, they're so entrenched in the establishment of the state, and just people see that name recognition and, oh, we can't vote against them. I mean, they've been in power for however long. So, but I mean, you're right. They should be. And I think, and we've seen this in the last, couple of months or whatever, how much power Trump's endorsement has had. Tomorrow, John Cornyn will likely lose his election against Ken Paxton, and that'll put it at two incumbent Republican senators that will have lost to Trump endorsed candidates who, you know, those are incumbent senators that are losing their seats. People are so entrenched,
and one forced.
Yeah, exactly. And so and now they're all mad and they're upset and they're not going to vote for anything. So it's not going to be until January until we're able to probably get anything done in the Senate.
Yeah.
But I think that it should put Thune and all these people on notice that, no, we're sick of this.
Yep.
Do your job.
Chris Hinkle, our good friend Chris Hinkle, he's been tweeting at Team Cornyn every day.
Yeah.
Team Cornyn, today is May 23rd, 2026. At John Cornyn has this was a couple days ago, not the latest one, but he has 1 day left in his political career. We will find out whether or not, based upon if he endorses Ken Paxton, is the general for the general election in November. And I'm just sitting here looking at this going, everybody, the world sees it. Look what happened in Indiana, dude.
Yep.
Look what happened in Kentucky. And we need to talk about Kentucky here in a minute.
We will.
But not only that, Louisiana, North Carolina with Tom Tillis. We forget about that. Was a soft kill. He didn't even try to run again. So, you know, the Trump endorsement means something.
Oh, it absolutely does. And I think people, there's been a lot of smoke about how MAGA's dead and Trump's losing his grip on the party. But I really think that those kind of people are detached from reality. It's just not true. You go on the ground and Trump is as popular as ever.
Yep.
And people, it's because he's doing what he says he's doing. And obviously, the war in Iran, you get gas prices back down, and it's going to be, I mean, no one's going to have anything really to complain about. So I think they underestimate the power of his endorsement. I think they underestimate his political longevity, and they're starting to find that out.
Yep. Definitely. And here's the other thing too. Oil's down to $91 a barrel
Yep.
right now. And what I want to remind everybody, these high gas prices suck.
Yeah.
There's nobody here who likes it. And as a farmer, the diesel prices suck even more.
Yeah.
But in order for us to defeat evil, we got to go through some pain.
Yeah. And I think better do it now than later.
And that's what really irritates me about some of these Gen Xers and boomers who say, "Oh, I want to have a better life. I'll go through the hard stuff now so that I can have a better life for my kids in the future." Well, it'd be good to get rid of all the Islamic terrorists in the country, funding them all around the world, and straighten out the oil situation, the energy situation, just so that our kids don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
And we're so duplicitous. We're so fake in that. And Brother Rick is sitting here. And he's texting, and I want to read it because Rick and I, we agree on a lot of stuff. We disagree on some stuff. Trump's approval rating is around 30%. His endorsement is set back, not a hand up. Billionaires' money, that's the difference. And I think what Rick is really upset about, and as well as my good friend Paul, is the whole Massey endorsement.
Well, let me just give my perspective on this, if you don't mind, because I know you talked about this the other day. And as someone who is in Gen Z, Thomas Massey is a fraud. I think that he used to be a really honorable congressman, and I think he did fight for the right things. But if I'm just going to be really honest for a second, since his wife passed away a couple of years ago, he's sort of changed and gone off the rails, in my opinion. This is someone who would go, and it wasn't, Trump was already hinting that he was going to try to primary Thomas Massey well before any of the Epstein and Israel stuff.
Yep.
And it had everything to do with the One Big Beautiful Bill. That was a once in a lifetime opportunity to get the tax cuts enshrined, all the border funding, basically everything Trump wanted into the One Big Beautiful Bill. And it only needed 51 votes because it was a continuing resolution. It wasn't a CR, or it wasn't a regular budget bill. And that's why it was so important. And Massey fought tooth and nail to fight that. Everything. And he said that the border funding was unrealistic. So he's basically an open borders libertarian is what he is. And that's not what the people of Kentucky Ford voted for. And that's why Ed Gallagher defeated a 14-year incumbent in Congress.
Too, this is the other thing that gets me about the Massey supporters. And I would say this about any congressman or any senator. After you've been in D.C. for so long, you lose your effectiveness. This is coming from a recovering politician who never lost, by the way. You sit there and you get there and you get brought into the system and you start playing the game. You understand what person you need to go see to get the transportation budget, what person you need to go see to go get and you start learning all the quirks. And the next thing you know, you're a county board supervisor and you're making $26,000 in salary.
Yeah.
But your donations are over $100,000 a year. And you're like, man, is this all I got to do?
Yeah.
And so I want them all primaried. In Mississippi, we have not had a general election a primary election for a Republican senator since 1978.
Yeah, 78. Yeah.
Yep. Can you think about that? Every time that a senator getting ready to step down, what happens? They step down while in office. The government puts in the next person, installs, and then they run as the incumbent.
Yep.
And look, I'm saying, everybody says, Andy, you're just a teetoting Republican. I'm just calling it like I see it.
Yeah.
I'm not. I can understand the positives of that, but I also see the negatives of that. And why not have an open primary? If you're that good, go run on your record.
Yeah.
And the people will know MAGA's not dead. MAGA, last thing here, and I know we're going a little long, but I watch CNN, not because I enjoy it or like it, but I watch it so you don't have to. And their pollster, Harry Enton, he's always sitting there bashing Trump every chance he gets. And if you watch that, you'll believe it. And then election night happens, and then he's on there, oh, well, Trump's endorsement really did matter, and people really do like what he's talking about. Yeah, and it's just frustrating to me because there's a lot of really good people who are getting bamboozled by
Yeah.
this.
And we can certainly keep talking about it after the break.
Yeah. Let's do that. See, that's Blake keeping me on track, and he's going to be running the board in the second hour. We're already decided that. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show. I am with Blake Bartlam, and this is 103.9 WYAB, and we will be right back. Yeah, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I'm with Brother Blake Bartlam, and this is 103.9 WYAB. We were talking, got text during the break. And Brother Rick, we're just talking. You can call in too if you want. But when we come out and we say things we don't like about a certain senator or something, it doesn't mean that. But you also have to be a winner. You know, that's one of the things I learned in the military. It pays to be a winner.
Yep.
It absolutely does. So if you are going to go after the king, you
best not miss.
You best not miss. You better chop his head off. And we learned this very painfully back in 2014 with Chris McDaniel running for senator.
Yep.
And then, you know, lieutenant governor as well. It's just, the thing is you can go ahead and put candidates up against everybody, but you're going to be crushed. And I don't want that. You know,
you have to be able to win. I mean, that's all it is. And people want a winner. They don't want a loser. They don't want somebody who didn't accomplish anything. And that's what Thomas Massey didn't accomplish a thing in Congress. It was only until after he knew he was going to lose his reelection campaign to a possible Trump endorsed candidate that he mentioned the Epstein files. He said that he was going to read all the names out on the Congress floor. Guess what? Never happened.
Yep.
And he said that he said the border funding was unrealistic. I mean, he challenged the president whenever he could, is really what it was. He would imply on Twitter that Trump was protecting the Epstein class and was protecting pedophilia. And then he would go and run ads to his voters in his district about how much he agreed with the president. That is a dishonest politician who doesn't accomplish anything. And just because you like the way he used to stand on certain issues doesn't mean that's not the same as the same establishment politicians that lie to their voters routinely and accomplish nothing. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing in two different fonts. And that's why he was voted out.
And here's the other thing too, you know, the Save America Act is worth dying on the Hill for.
Yeah.
I feel the Epstein files are worth dying for. This other stuff, I'm not going to die for it. I mean, I'm pro-life. I want to live, and I want to be able to have positive influence, not just in the greater WYAB listening area, but all over Mississippi. I think it'd be great if there were bunches of Ricks as precinct delegates all over the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
And that's an election where you could prove that you're a winner. You know, you could prove that you're a winner. And that's the thing. It's like some people have these delusions of grandeur. Oh, I'm running for state senator. Have you ever ran a campaign before? No. Have you ever ran for office before? No. Have you ever had a fundraiser before? No. Good luck.
Yeah.
Here's $25. Good luck. Here's a starter fee. But and that's just how I feel about it. And I feel it's not I'm not selling out my core values. I'm not sitting there saying I'm going to be necessarily for the opponent, but when you're up against these insurmountable odds, and it's truly a David and Goliath type of situation, and you're not praying and acting like David, well, then you might have some issues. And that's all I'm trying to say. You know, I agree, Rick. You know, Senator Wicker, I mean, he just came out and talked about how he's against Trump with trying to solve this peace deal. You know, Trump is the master of the art of the deal.
Yeah.
And he is the first person who's actually got Iran on the ropes. He's the first person. And all I see is people like Roger Wicker, John Thune,
Mitch McConnell,
Turtle
Lindsey
McConnell, Turtle McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Chuck Grassley, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, Cassidy, John Cornyn. I see them all sabotaging the president. Yeah, I'm angry at them. I said it. I mean, you know, it's not like Andrew Gosser could go out there and raise, you know, a couple $1 billion and all right, now I'm going to fund all these Senate candidates. You know who could do that though? Uncle Elon.
Yep. Thank you.
Have you heard about Uncle Elon and his SpaceX IPO?
Yep. Was it $27 trillion? Maybe the IPO.
It started at $1.75 trillion valuation of SpaceX. I saw a video yesterday where this guy, that's all he does is IPOs, and he follows, he specializes in Tesla, SpaceX, and all that. SpaceX projected IPO could revaluate $27.5 trillion.
Gracious.
$27.5 trillion. Now imagine Uncle Elon with that kind of money. He's like,
oh my goodness,
he's going to steamroll everybody. And you know, people were like, Andy, you sound excited for that. Well, I'm scared to death of that, because Uncle Elon, he's going to be able to think about this. People don't even actually realize what happens once he starts getting this AI computers out in and around the Earth's orbit, where it's not hurting the environment anymore because it's using space to cool and solar energy to go ahead and power this stuff. that trillion, he's going to overtake the national debt.
He could with that kind of money.
He's going to be able to do it, and people are not comprehending that. And you know what? They're going to have to. I mean, the two most hunted people in the world right now is one, President Trump. He's got fatwas against him from Iran and everything, and Uncle Elon. I mean, those are the two guys right there, and they're teamed up right now. I mean, Elon Musk could come into a state like Mississippi, spend $50 million and completely reshape the entire state of Mississippi. And and that's, I know I hear political operatives. I see them now. I know who you are. They're sitting there going, don't say that, don't say that. But it's true. And if you think that I'm just a one-off, if Blake is just a one-off, there's one of those at least in every precinct in this state.
Yeah.
And all you need is one. All you need is one. But that's my thoughts on Uncle Elon and Iran. What do you think about Uncle Elon and what's going on with him?
I think it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, because it's like I know people still want to get the money out of politics and the billionaires and everything. And it's just like, well, look, if you're going to have them, because I don't think we're going to get rid of them. I'd hope that they're all on our side. And we saw what Elon was able to do, help with the ground game in places like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and North Carolina with Starlink and everything ahead of the 2024 election. And that's just what we can do. We can just hope that he uses that stuff for a force for good, that he comes to God and, meets Jesus, and then it turns it all into a force for good. And I think that's all we can hope for.
I agree. Because if we sit there and we just go ahead and, every politician is going to do stuff that you love.
Yeah.
Like, everybody loves the judges he put in. Everybody loves the fact that he's cracking down on the border. Everybody loves the fact that he's doing all these things. But then they'll come out and they'll look at all these other things. Well, I don't like that he does this, so I'm not for him anymore.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I'm like, are you really telling me you want Kamala Harris is the next president of the United States, or whoever the next Democrat is? Is that what you're telling me?
Trump's the only person that's been able to actually get anything done. I think abandoning him over some of this trivial stuff is just ridiculous.
Yep. And I'm just completely blown away by it. I don't like the fact that President Trump is trying to just go hands off of AI and just let it go crazy. I don't agree with him on that, but I'm not going to sit there and say I renounce the president because of his AI policy.
Yeah.
I'm just not. Because whether we like it or not, we live in a black and white world when it comes to this.
Mhm.
They're going to do stuff you like, stuff you don't like. And if you're going to be a Puritan and you're going to be a purist, pick up your cross and carry it, because there's absolutely no way that I could do that. I'm just not. I'm not in that. Hey, we're going to take a little break because we're going to have a little bit longer segment because we got to talk about the Waffle House. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I am with Blake Bartlam, and we will be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. And we're moving and grooving. We're rocking and rolling. Blake, we were having a conversation.
Yeah, we were. So we're just continuing our Thomas Massey whole Trump conversation. And this is one thing that I've seen, and it's absolutely true. Yeah, I remember I'm old enough to remember in Trump's first term, whenever they said that he was compromised by Russia and that he was beholden to Putin and all the stuff and the Steele dossier. And I honestly, I think the same playbook's just being repeated in a different language in his second term. I think Israel's the new Russia. I think Netanyahu's the new Putin, and the Epstein files is the new Steele dossier. And I remember the president saying this in an interview before he was sworn in for his second term, how he said he didn't know if the country could handle all of the Epstein files being released. And I think what he meant by that was that the discourse surrounding it would just be totally insane. They've released like 3.5 million pages of documents, and like of all the people that were actually exposed in them, no one's talking about them.
Nope.
Bill Clinton, the former Harvard president, one of Obama's attorneys, Prince Andrew. No one's talking about those people. All they're talking about is the ridiculous false headlines that were put in those files that were like leads that didn't go anywhere. So real justice is not going to happen because once you release everything, which it's stupid to release everything in an investigation because there's so much crap in them. There's so much untruth in them.
Blake, guess what? This is where you and I are going to disagree.
All right.
My God. I want it all out there, dude. And you want to know what? If our Department of Justice isn't going to take care of it, if the FBI is going to drop the ball, Pam Bondi, boobs on a bull, absolutely worthless.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, she's horrible.
If that's what we're going to get, put all the files out there and just let the public do what they will with it.
I think that's, I agree.
To quote Scott Jennings, internet, do something, and we got to get out there and we've got to take that action.
I agree with you. Like, I understand, like, my thing is like, and it's hard to ever get arrests, I think, for all this stuff. One, because of statute of limitations. Two, because of, I'm not sure if the island is technically U.S. territory. So can they arrest people for crimes committed on the island if they can even find proof of it in the files?
That's crimes against humanity, man.
I agree. I agree.
And
does the U.S. justice system look at it that way? I have no idea. I completely agree with you.
Better to put a millstone around your neck and drown yourself in the sea than to harm a child, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not what I'm trying to say. Like, what I'm saying though is like for me, because of all the hysteria and all the political drama around it, it is distracted from actual justice for the victims, and it's become more of a political tool than anything else. And that's what I really have hated to see since it's been a thing, and it's been used as purely political capital, and that's all that it's been. And that's something that is sickening to me, that people would use something like the rape of children as political capital.
Yep. And to think, and dude, I've got a daughter. I know you don't have kids yet, but there's a woman out there and you're going to have a huge family. I'm prophesying it over you. But what I'm saying is that as a man with a daughter, and I looked at what Clinton was doing with that, I'm just like, my God, dude, I'd be infuriated. And there's absolutely no excuse for that, and how we can't prosecute that. That being said, I think the Epstein files is the one thing that can honestly hurt this president.
Yeah.
If we don't get the Save America Act, that won't be on Trump. That's going to be on John Thune,
it's going to be on
Turtle
Congress.
McConnell, and all of those. And I'm going to keep on saying that. And I don't ever call people names, but Mitch McConnell's got a special place in my heart, and he looks like a turtle, so he's Turtle McConnell.
He's slow like a turtle.
Dude, why is he still there?
I have no idea.
You know what?
Thank God he's going to be gone in January.
Again, because I'm a Republican sycophant and I'm 100% Republican. How Republicans can keep Mitch McConnell in the Senate when he's completely out of it. His mental faculties aren't there. If you were for getting Joe Biden out of office and you're not for Turtle McConnell getting out of office, you are a hypocrite.
Yeah,
you really are. And, he's a solid vote. No, that's not a solid. Yeah, he's a solid vote for Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. Yeah. And we had this whole show last week. I know that you're always out doing stuff, but I was talking about how it's not what the main votes are, it's how they work it in committees. Mm-hmm. And we went all into that and was talking about that. But it's one of those things where I'm just sick and tired of Republicans doing that. And where I have the chance to call them out, I will.
Yeah.
There were all sorts of great Republicans out there. Wesley Hunt from Texas, the congressman, man, baller. Ken Paxton, baller.
Yep.
You watch this. Ron DeSantis, baller. You know, we've got people out there who are doing great stuff. I don't know how it's all going to work out in the wash. Who moves up where? I mean, what we really need is to have people in office do their part and then just gracefully bow out and go get a radio
And
show.
thankfully to President Trump, we have been able to reshape the makeup of the Republican Party. I think 10 years ago, what the Republican Party looked like with Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney compared to who the leaders of the party are now, night and day.
You know, Mitt Romney would still be in office if it wasn't for Donald J. Trump. Are you glad that Donald J. Trump's in office?
Absolutely.
Me too. Me too. When we get back, we are going to talk about something that is near and dear to both Blake's heart and my heart. It's the Mississippi redistricting map debacle in Mississippi. I look at the map and I'm watching these national pundits asking what the heck's wrong with Mississippi.
Great question.
It is. It is. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
And you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Blake Bartlam here with Brother Andrew here in the studio for the second hour. We're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X, streaming on YouTube, streaming on Facebook. And if you can't find us anywhere else, you can listen to us on WYAB.com. Andrew, what are we getting into the second hour?
We've got to talk about redistricting, man. We've got to talk about redistricting. Hopefully people want to call in and talk about that. But, I was watching Red Eagle Politics last night, and it's a YouTube channel, and I like him because he's more of a Republican bent, and he's a realist. And he shows the entire map of the South, and it's all red, one or two blue spots, and this big giant yellow slab across the western side of Mississippi. And I got to give him credit because he's the one national conservative prognosticator. And I'm not trying to be any shade towards Benny Johnson or Dr. Steve Turley or anybody like that, but they all thought that Mississippi was going to redistrict.
Yeah.
And we're not. And there's a real growing consensus, not maybe necessarily inside Mississippi, but it is inside Mississippi too. But that what's going on with Mississippi? Why aren't we redistricting? And it's a real problem because the momentum is there, the FOMO is there, but we're not doing it. And it's one of the things that I get a lot of complaints about, and people talking to me, why aren't we doing it? And look, I'm not a county chairman. I'm on the executive board, and they know how I feel. But I'm not going to sit there and like flame them. I'm just going to say, look, there's going to be a price to pay, because MAGA's not dead. They're just paying a lot more attention now, and they know who's doing what. And so this redistricting thing is just driving me up a wall. I don't know how you're feeling about it.
Absolutely, it's making me mad. I mean, I don't know how in the world we as a state, we as Mississippi, can somehow justify having Benny Thompson as one of our 4 representatives that we send to Washington, D.C. in the House. I mean, I can't think of a single thing he's done for his voters, but I can think of multiple times he committed treason against America. I mean, the work that he did on the January 6th Select Committee was just treasonous. And of course, he had Michael Guest standing right behind him whenever they voted for the commission. Just absolutely appalling. And I don't know how we as a state can even allow him to even consider allowing him to have a seat in Congress. He doesn't represent the people of the state. He doesn't represent our values, and he doesn't represent the United States of America. And I think that's the biggest thing. Just I don't know why in the world we can allow that. And I think it is cowardice to not act on it now. Why wait till 2027 or 2028 to do it? Do it now. And I don't care that we already had our primary elections. Alabama and South Carolina didn't care, and they're still gonna pass their maps regardless of it. I mean, the Constitution doesn't go away just because we already had primary elections. If the Supreme Court has ruled that race-based districts are unconstitutional, District 2 was unconstitutional, whether or not we had an election before that was decided or not.
I completely agree. And, it's one of those things where, we're going to have elections all across the state.
Yeah.
It's not just that. And I think that Mississippi's looking at it from a financial point of view. I think there's some of that in there. I think Michael Watson knows he can do it.
Yeah, absolutely can.
He knows he can do it. But does he have the want to do it? I don't know if he's come out for it. I know that he made a very benign statement about it.
Yeah.
Our chairman, Michael Hurst, has made a very benign statement about it where he's for it, but not right now. Governor Tate Reeves is the same thing. And, Governor or Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, he's been very silent on the whole thing too. And, here's the thing. We're getting back to Trump looking at people who helped him and was on his side and is not. And he's the one person, right? Well, there's a couple of people who are actually doing that. Everybody else is dependent on different PACs.
Yeah.
Whether it be a PAC, that's the soup du jour of the day. Used to be all these left-wing PACs, Act Blue. That's another thing too. We've got the Department of Justice and the FBI. Did we ever investigate Act Blue for all the?
I think they're under subpoena.
campaign?
They're under subpoena right now.
Are they actually doing something? Because I haven't heard anything.
It's sort of behind the scenes, and a lot of it actually has to do with the House Judiciary Committee.
Well, that's a lost cause.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, isn't it sad where it's another congressional investigation?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yep, I mean, if we had to play a drinking game for every time we had to take a shot when there's another congressional investigation from a Republican, we would be so hammered we couldn't come on the radio, man. It'd be terrible. But it's one of those things too. Let's play this on the other foot. Mississippi has drawn congressional lines based on whites and not population, not political party, because you can draw population on or districts based on political party.
Yeah.
And now we're telling the Southern Poverty Law Center, who supports the Ku Klux Klan, by the way, apparently, allegedly indicted for the Exalted Cyclops and the Grand Wizard, and the NAACP. Do you think that they would wait till 2027 to redraw the district lines, or would they be
No.
making Mississippi draw the lines right now?
They'd redraw their lines right now, just like Mississippi redrew the lines in 2022 to get Chris McDaniel out of his state Senate seat.
Yep.
I mean, this is all. I mean, it's the same game that they all play. All they care about is their one little club, and they're willing to let anybody else be let the people of Mississippi have to reap the consequences of that.
Yep. And there were really a lot of good people who ended up getting redistricted out.
Mhm.
Same with some judges up in DeSoto County and a couple senator seats too. Do those need to be redrawn now too? I think they need to be redrawn before the 2027 elections. They
I
need to
agree.
revert to type.
And you've had a lot of the state senators up there, Senator McClendon in particular, be one that actually has come out and like really hammered home support for redistricting, because it's something that has to happen. We as a state need to finally show some balls, show that we have the testicular fortitude to actually get something done and do something meaningful for the nation. Because Benny Thompson is not just someone that's plagued the state of Mississippi; he's someone that's plagued America. And I don't know. I've said it before, and I'll say it a million more times. I don't know why we as a state allow him to have the type of power that he does.
I think there's genuine fear. I think also this is coming from somebody who's coming from outside of Mississippi into Mississippi. And like one person who has lived in Mississippi his entire life, he told me, and he's a supporter of mine, but he's like, you're making some big strokes there that a lot of Mississippians don't really like about you is you're pushing the party too fast. You're pushing too hard. You're right, but you're pushing too hard, and it's making a lot of people uncomfortable. And
I think we need that. I think that needs to change.
Well, it can't necessarily come from someone like me. It can, but when it comes from people like you, and the new Gen Zers coming up who are just based as heck. I almost said a bad word, but you know what I was going to say. And I really do appreciate the Mick Foley WWE reference with the testicular fortitude. I can appreciate that. But until it starts seeing it more, which is why I always try to implore people to let their congressmen know, their state reps know, their state senators know. Yeah. I've been on the radio. Can you believe I'm almost been on the air a whole year full time at WYAB? Yep, June 2nd. And that's why I've told people to make relationships with their state reps, their state senators, their county board supervisors, their election commissioners, their board of or your school board members, because if you want to have real impact, it's so much easier to get it on that local level than it is they're sitting there talking about the Save America Act.
Absolutely. And I just, like I said, and you're right. I mean, obviously, I think the old guard of Mississippi just is they have their slow process of getting things done, and people are sick of that. It's not working, and it's not delivering for the people of Mississippi. And I think come 2027, the Mississippi GOP and the more establishment types are going to be shocked by the results of these elections, because people are sick of that inaction. They want someone who's going to go in, doesn't care what people think, and is just going to deliver for the people of Mississippi. And I think that's the attitude that we need to have. And I think it's going to bode well for our state if we start to adopt that sort of mentality. And I know, you're not supposed to, make people angry and all this stuff or whatever. But when it comes down to, do we need to deliver for the state of Mississippi or not? I think a lot of that goes out the window. And I'm sick and tired of politicians that say one thing and then take forever to get the slightest bit of thing done. And, if we were all lackadaisical like that and didn't achieve hardly anything at our jobs, we'd get fired.
Oh, I'd be so.
But they'll go give themselves a pay raise for not getting anything done. And I think that's the kind of thing that people are sick of, and it has to change. And it's not something that we should do. It's something that we have to do if we want to make sure that Mississippi is still on the national stage, that Mississippi can actually fight for itself, and that Mississippi can get stuff done.
Thomas Massey has been invited to be part of the Democrat populism movement, which he may actually do, which is incredible to me.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk about is the populism movement on the right too, which is MAGA, which is and that's the populism is not going away. The days of the party, the left and the right, I think are going to go away, and I think it's going to be populism up and down. Can we move people up economically? Brother John called in and said, what did Benny Thompson do for Mississippi? He brought in 600 million for the water plant, and I had to think about it for a minute, and I'm like, okay, but what has he done for the Delta? What has he done to improve? Not just sit there and keep everybody poor,
Yeah.
but actually improve. And all I can think of is Judas 30 pieces of silver, man.
Yeah.
And he's selling people out. And it's not enough for someone like me to come on the air and bash Penny Thompson like that. We need to have somebody who's got real ideas and real solutions for the Delta, for Jackson. And it's not a black issue. It's not a white issue. It's not a racial issue at all. It is a ideology issue.
100%.
And know what? When all you've raised up is on depending on the government, you're nothing more than a slave to the government. You really
Absolutely.
are, and we've got to get away from that.
We have to. And that's I think that's a lot of the sort of the terms that people are having to come to grasp to is like that like we have sort of dug ourselves in this hole.
We have.
And it's and it doesn't you don't have to be angry about it. You don't have to say something on Facebook about it. You have to go out, you have to vote, you have to knock on the doors, you have to inform people about this stuff, because if we don't do any of that, then we're just talking until we're blue in the face and nothing actually gets done. And we're no different than they are.
Chip was talking about it earlier today on the Clay Edwards show, filling in, and he was talking about how only 17% of Mississippi people voted, and that is just absolutely diabolical. It's shameful. Think about this. You want to talk about the haves? Tell them what the have-nots are going to do.
Yep.
And we'll, each side is great at turning out their ideological base.
Yeah.
But how many people who are and that's what this show is really for, is the people in the middle, man. Not the far left, not the far right, because I'm not going to really convert the people from the far left, but those in the middle, and the far right is just going to do what they're going to do. But those of us who are in the sensible middle, how are we going to go ahead and get our voices heard? Well, it's in the primary election, but they don't even teach that in the schools.
No. I took AP Gov this last semester, and I think we talked about primary elections maybe one time.
Man, when we get back from the break, we got to talk about what you learned in AP government. I'm actually fascinated to hear about this now.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, my teacher was awesome. She was great, Coach Massey. She was awesome. I loved her. But I think it boils down to the curriculum, and this is something I was talking to. Whenever we go to a Memorial Day segment, we'll talk about Senator Hartness and a couple other people that are raising money for a veteran down there in Flowood, at Lakeland Drive and Grants Ferry. And this is something he talks about a lot, and I agree with him. It's Common Core. It's the curriculum that we have set that is a lot of the reason that a lot of the schools have fallen to what they have fallen to. So I guess it's something we'll talk about. Look, you're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We were talking last segment about redistricting and all this stuff, and I could just talk about that forever. We don't want to bore y'all with anything. Andrew, what you got next for the next show?
Well, this show is always moving and grooving, flowing, and you were talking about AP government. And if we could just spend a minute or two talking about what did you actually learn? I know that you loved your professor, your teacher, so we're not throwing any shade at her.
Yeah.
We talked about Common Core a little bit, and but I want to know, what did you actually learn in AP government civics?
Honestly, it didn't I think this is honestly the only thing we really learned. I think is I don't think a lot of people knew how in depth the Constitution really went beyond the amendments.
Mhm.
And we did talk about the articles and Art 1, 2, 3, all the judicial branch, all the stuff. And I don't, and that's honestly the unit that people struggle with the most, which I think just shows that's where
Wow.
people don't understand how there is a whole structure to this stuff. It's not as cut and dry as people think. And then what we did learn, all the the unique quirks of how a bill gets passed, specifically in the House with the Rules Committee
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And I think that's something that people needed to learn, because I really don't think that they knew how much really went involved into it. And I think that's where you get a lot of misinformed voting from, is that people don't know actually how the system works, and they don't know the different contrivances and who's in charge of what and how policy gets determined and all that stuff. But that honestly, those are probably the two main things that we learned. Everything else was just court cases and stuff and whatever.
How much did you spend on how the mayor of Flora gets elected?
None.
How much time did you spend on how a Mississippi State representative gets elected?
None.
County board supervisor?
None.
Lieutenant governor?
None.
State senator?
None.
Governor?
A couple minutes.
Auditor?
None.
Secretary of State?
None.
You see the problem, right? What I'm driving at, Brother Blake? And again, I'm not bashing Rankin County School Board. I will bash you because you have your meetings at 7:30 in the damn morning on a Wednesday, when we're all trying to get to kids to school, and where we got to get to a job, and we can't go ahead and have real representation on our school board in Rankin County. But other than that, I won't bash the school board on that. But it just goes to show how devoid our civics education really is. It's not your fault that you didn't get taught that. If you don't get taught that, you don't know that. You think about this: these kids are coming out, they're getting ready to vote, and they have absolutely no idea how important it is to elect a board of education, a school board member, or county board supervisor, or their local mayor or alderman. None. But you know what? I've actually had 5 classes where I've taught people about that. And I'd be willing to do it again if there was enough interest for it. And it's 3 hours, and it teaches you everything from precinct delegate all the way up to as high as you wanna go. I spend a lot more time on the lower level jobs because of that. And we were talking about, when we were doing our show prep, about the Illinois, or not the Illinois senator, excuse me, the Indiana state senator who was losing by 3 votes, and I guess they found it, and
I think they came back. Yeah.
they came back. But think about that. 3 votes in a state Senate seat. And again, you can thank Donald Trump for getting rid of those losers that didn't want to redistrict in Indiana.
And to bring that back local, I remember back in November when Daryl Palmer was running for District 2 supervisor in Rankin County. He lost that runoff by 9 votes. 9 votes.
There was a judge who lost by 4 votes too. And I'm just sitting there thinking, man, did these people have any people helping them with their campaigns and trying to help them out?
I was only probably volunteering with Daryl for the last couple of days or last few days of the campaign, just because I'd finally been able to get done with school and a lot of stuff that was in my way, and I had some time. And I can only imagine, what if we were able to do that a lot sooner, and you knock on a few more doors, put a few more flyers out or whatever. But I think that just that local stuff is so important. You're so right. And it's the school board, it's the supervisors, it's the, that's who decides your property taxes, the zoning for what buildings can get built where, how much time do you have to decide if the community is going to allow this specific, the data centers have been a big thing, and people are mad about the zoning of that, and not giving the people enough time to be able to voice concerns about something like that being built in their community. And it's like all your stuff the stuff that really, really, really affects you, it happens at the state and mostly the local level. The national stuff, obviously, if you don't have a border, you don't have a nation, foreign policy, federal taxes. Obviously, not saying the federal government doesn't have anything to do with your lives, but a lot of the stuff that affects you on your everyday level, that's going to be your state and local level. And it's so, so, so important to be educated on it, and a lot more important to get involved as well.
Yep. And there's a whole nother section to that with the party, because the party isn't in 2027. Like Mississippi, we do our I gotta stop saying like my daughter's infiltrating my communication skills, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. Toots McCracken, you're on the hook. But when we sit there and we talk about the party, it's actually 2028. It's once every 4 years.
Yeah.
There are other states that do it every 2 years, so you have much more interaction with the party, right? And people don't understand like the power of the women's Republican clubs of Rankin County, of Madison
Oh,
County,
huge.
Hinds County, DeSoto County. I had to actually be educated on that, because coming from out of state, I'm like, yeah, we have it, but that's not the party. The party runs it, and it's not really that way here.
No,
And,
that is
and
the party.
it's difficult for me to completely adopt that
And get used to
and
it.
get
Yeah.
used to it. But I do feel the precinct delegate system is the way to do that, because that's who elects your county chairman,
Yeah.
your county vice chairman, your secretary, your treasurer, if you've got one. That's what really drives stuff locally. On the state level, I realize that I'm just one small piece of that, and I really try to manage my own expectations and beliefs and grand desires of what I think can happen in the world. I'm not saying that I can have that kind of influence all over the states, but I do know that I can have my own little impact here in Hinds County, and we've got a very Republican precinct in Hinds County. In fact, we're the most conservative
Yeah.
precinct in Hinds County.
Yeah.
And people think that Hinds County is just a waste for Republicans. You know that we're in the top 5 voting votes for Republicans all
Mhm.
across the state.
Yep.
Only DeSoto, Madison, Rankin, and Jefferson maybe down south.
Yeah, that or Jones County, probably
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
yeah. It's if Hinds County doesn't turn out for the Republican
Yeah.
Party, and like we normally do,
Cooked.
the state is cooked. And so we have to really think about that, and I want to grow the party that way.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I don't want to be like the chairman. Uh, I don't want to be like a leader that way that goes and runs for election. Man, I can barely walk up and down the stairs. I don't want to do that, but I do want to help people. I do want to put people in those positions of power, and the thing is the sooner that we get more people involved in that, the better it's going to be. And here's the thing: there's people who've been doing this for years, and they're ready for a break. They truly are. They're afraid of what's going to come in, but they're truly ready for a break. And if you're coming in there with the right intentions, not to burn the place down, but to matriculate the ball down the field per se,
Mhm.
you're going to get support.
That's why I think a lot of the Nick Fuentes types. That's why I think that they're not as nearly as popular as they thought they were.
Yep.
Because they don't advocate for anything. They just advocate against everything. And that's not a message that wins people over. Listening to Matt on the show, but right before us, he was talking about how they failed. All they did was say, "We're not Trump. We're not Trump. We're not Trump." They didn't give anything for people to vote for in the 2024 election. Donald Trump gave some people something to vote for, to
And-
vote to make America great again. That is a vision that people can get behind. And I think that's an idea and a doctrine that people need to adopt, not only in politics, but in their lives. Live for something, live for that thing that God has in store for you. And I think you're going to find that your life, you feel like you have a lot more purpose, and you're going to be able to deliver for the people around you. Look, we're going to go ahead and take our next break. Andrew has an amazing story for us, or I don't know if amazing is the right word, a very heartfelt story for us
Yep.
on this Memorial Day. Look, you listen to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back.
And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I'm here with Brother Blake. And this is a tough day for me. I had a great career, 21 years, both enlisted and as an officer. Got to see both sides of the machine and how the sausage is made. And it is with Memorial Day, I never get mad when someone wishes me a happy Memorial Day. But I'm always thinking about my friends who didn't make it back. And there are some that I knew tacitly, some that I knew well, but there's a couple that get to me. And I'm just going to read this. This is coming from Pam before I get into Sergeant Daniel Fannon's story. Only two defining forces have ever offered to die for us, Jesus Christ and the American soldier. One died for our soul and one died for our freedom. I honor all those who gave all for our freedom. I'm thankful and grateful for their sacrifice. Freedom isn't free. May God bless our military and country. Thank you for your service. That's coming from Pam from Richland. She just sent that in. And it's funny, the text line is so valuable, but it really brings it all into focus. And with this, so when I got my commission in the Air Force, June 28th, 2001, my first day as an actually functioning second lieutenant, if there is such a thing as a functioning second lieutenant, was September 11th, 2001. And because I was already enlisted, I had already had my TS, SCI, and all the goodies that you need. So I was immediately brought into the fight, the global war on terror. And by the time I got to Tinker, Sergeant Fannin, then Airman Fannin, actually I think he was senior airman at the time, was in the 965th Airborne Air Control Squadron, 965th AACS, known as Dark Star. That was our call sign. So when we were given control, Dark Star. And it's cool. It was cool. And then there was Chalice and a couple other loser call signs, but we don't worry about them. We're the 965th. And Dan was just one of those guys that he ran the radar, he set up the radar. And without getting myself into trouble, I always liked my radar scope a little bit more dirty than the other people. I would rather have more dots than not enough dots. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And Dan was always one of those guys who'd be like, yes, sir, I can figure it out. Morale patches, always see him around the squadron, smiling, happy. Just a great dude, man. And he was one of those people who would always volunteer himself. In the Navy, they would say, the Navy has an acronym, never again volunteer yourself. But that wasn't Dan. And I mean, he would volunteer for some crazy stuff. And one of those assignments was to switch from flying radar operator or radar. Well, he was the airborne radar technician. So he would make sure the radar was ready for us to go. He switched from that to go fly on an MC-12 Liberty. And all I'm going to say about that is it's beeps and squeaks. And it is a very, very difficult mission. Now, I retired in 2011. Last time I saw him was 2008, but we had a few little exchanges where he'd be flying through and, hey, Dan, how's it going? And, sir, it's going great. How's Tyndall Street? Oh, it's great. I love the schoolhouse. Oh, we miss you over there at the 5th. Yeah, miss you too. Well, maybe I'll get back there. Never did make it back, but that's all right. And so he flew the MC-12 Liberty. And this is a high demand, low density. That means everybody wants it, but there's only a few of them. So their time is very valuable. The air crews are always deployed. I mean, if you're not deployed, you're either getting home or getting ready to go. I mean, it's brutal schedule. Dan was married, great father, kids, wonderful kids. I mean, just like the model Air Force family. I mean, you couldn't say enough good things about this dude. And when I saw him, he was young. I think I met him when he was 23, and by the time I left, he was 27. And by the time this all rolled around, he was 30, and he took off for a mission out of Kandahar airfield in Afghanistan, and didn't make it home. The details around his death, they're still not sure if they just crashed into a mountain or if they were shot down. That's all above my pay grade. Don't need to know. But the impact that that kid had on so many of us, I mean, all of us from all over the Air Force, whether we were on active duty or retired, we're all talking about it, trying to make sure the family's okay. And his death, his sacrifice still gets me to this day because, I thought about it too. Did I always volunteer for everything? No, not like he did, but I did volunteer and it could have been me, and I would have happily done it. And I know Dan was doing what he loved to do. He was a true humble servant. He was always the guy that would make sure that everything was ready to go. There were, let me see if I got this pulled up here right. There were 2 other people pulled up on that. I don't have that part of the story pulled up. And I can go back to the 552nd operations page and get all the particulars on that. But on this Memorial Day, I always choose to remember Dan and think of this is one of the good guys, And I know that I have a lot of veterans listening, and there's a lot of us who get cranky on a day like today. Not a lot of people are gonna be out there barbecuing today. It's supposed to be raining and everything. But let's not remember, or let's not celebrate Memorial Day for what it is in 2026. Let's treat it like it was 1948 or 1949, where we lost tens of thousands of Americans in World War II, where we lost tens of thousands of Americans in Korea and in Vietnam. We've got to remember this, because if we don't, it's just going to become less and less of a thing where Gen Z and Gen A are going to think, oh, it's just a day off. It's in England, it's a bank holiday. They don't even celebrate it like that. They have something else. But I mean, this is America's day to remember the people we lost in combat or just in active duty. I mean, it can be something as innocuous. We had a guy in 102, his call sign was Omelet, and I didn't know him that well, but he got killed driving home on a Liberty. That's a loss too. You didn't necessarily have to perish in a combat zone or on in a combat mission. Training accidents happen too. And the thing I love about the military is that we always try to learn from it. And I don't have all the specifics of this MC-12 Liberty crash, but I know going through the process of losing people, we go through an in-depth process to where we make sure that we try not to repeat those same mistakes twice. And I'm sure the Army has some system in place. And I'm sure the Army has some system in place. And we try to remember our and honor our dead. And I don't like it when fake politicians come out on Facebook or X and post our I think we have 13 more dead right now from this Iran conflict, and call it Trump's war. That's terrible. Just like I don't when you start politicizing stuff like that, that is the wrong way to go. And some of you might disagree with me on that. But our commander in chief made the decision to go, and we went to go. I wasn't like, when the global war on terror started off, it was President George W. Bush. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm going for this because President George W. Bush, and then President Obama sends me to Afghanistan. I'm like, oh, I'm not going now because it's a Democrat. That's not how it works. The American soldier, the American airman, the American sailor, the American Marine, the American Coast Guardsman, the American Guardian, we really don't care who the president is. When we given lawful orders, we stand up, salute smartly, and carry out the plan of the day and the mission. And when I see political parties jockeying around like this, it irritates me. And people are like, "Well, Trump does it too." Trump has tried to build the military up. And without getting into it, how we left Afghanistan is for another day. It's not for today. But there were good people that we lost, you know, and I have my YouTube feed set up to where I get reminders every day of people who died in combat, whether it be Afghanistan, Iraq 1, Iraq 2, going back to Lebanon, went through when the jihadis blew up the friggin' Marine barracks and we lost all those Marines. Terrible. The same thing happened in Saudi Arabia. These are American moms, dads, sisters, brothers, and their kids are going to be scarred for life. And a lot of them end up going into either military service or firefighter, police department, public service. We need to honor that. And we just need to make sure that we take this day for what it is. It's not a day to have a barbecue and drink some beers and throw down some shots, get baked. It's a day to remember the fallen who gave everything so that you could have something. And you can hate America all you want, but there's no other country in the world that can do what we can do. There's no other country in the world that will go out for the meek and the innocent and the powerless. And we'll treat you like you're world class. Whenever there's a disaster around the world, what's the first thing you see? You see a U.S. Air Force jet cargo, whether it's a C-5, C-130, or C-17, landed down carrying supplies. They're risking their lives to go do that. No other country does that. And we're sitting here bashing the hell out of our country? No. Sergeant Fannin, I can honestly say I miss you. Not that we would have been daily friends or anything like that, but, I've got my Navy buddies that we still message with, and we'll all check in with each other. We'll do buddy checks today. Death Boy, Frosty. And it's just something that I wanted to spend some time and share Sergeant Daniel Fannon's story, because I don't think enough people truly understand what this day is about. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
And we are back for these last couple of minutes here on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Thank y'all for tuning in these couple hours, a special episode here on Memorial Day. And as Andrew was talking about, just such a heartfelt story. And that's just one story of, 1.3 million, I think, U.S. servicemen and women that have died over all the years in the history of the nation. And I think it just really puts it into perspective. We all have our own example of this stuff, and each have our own meaningful story to us, and almost every single person has something like that. And I think that's how powerful this day is, and I think it really puts it into perspective. How much this nation has done for each and every one of us, and how much this nation has done for the world. And that it is the defender of freedom. It is the defender of Christianity across the globe. Whether it was World War I, World War II, or the stuff that we're doing now in Iran and Nigeria. This is a country that fights for what's right and stands up for the Christian values that we uphold across the world. And I think that it is so powerful that we get to be a part of that, and that we get to be alive in a time where that is shown more than ever. And I think we should be thankful for that. And I think we should always 1000% support the men and women of the armed forces that are executing the president's mission to defend and to put America back on the world stage. Because like Andrew was saying, regardless of politics, these men and women have orders that they have to fulfill, and they fulfill them to the best of their duties. And that is, whether you agree with the person that's given the order or not, that's irrelevant. These are absolute patriots and war fighters. They're going out there for their country so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we do every single day. And, we're forever indebted for that. And we thank every single person that has paid the ultimate price. And we pray that God has rested their souls, and they are with our Father in heaven. And that is all that we can really say, and that's all that we can really do, and support them no matter what they do. So, but we thank y'all for tuning in. I know it was a wild show. Started off hot with Iran stuff, got into redistricting there in the second hour. And so it's going to be exciting. A lot of stuff to look forward to. Look for an Iran deal to be signed potentially here in the next couple of days. Pray for peace more than anything. We can never underestimate the power of prayer and what that can do for the world, and what that can do for us, and achieving peace in the Middle East, hopefully, or as best and as good as a peace as we can get.
Mm-hmm.
That is something absolutely that we're looking to have. And I really don't think that people understand what that kind of thing can do, not only for the world, but what that can do just for the future of the world. Because if Iran had the power that they did in the Strait of Hormuz, where they could just shut it down like that, I really don't think that that's something that people understand, the power of that. And Lord willing, they'll finally get that issue handled so that we don't have to deal with something like that in the future. And we thank the president for having the balls to go and handle that situation. So pray for peace, pray for the president, pray for the world. Y'all keep doing your thing out there. Keep educating people. Keep learning. Keep reading your Bible. And by God, we will have our country again. We thank y'all for tuning in on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Blake Bartlam. That's Andrew Gosser. Y'all have a good one.